we should expect that our children and grandchildren to go to work and come back a bigger human, like spiritually and physically and intellectually, not be diminished. Like their light should be brighter because of the jobs that they are doing. And that requires workplaces to become meaningful and purposeful as well as looking after them. So I think that is that simple really for me. Every workplace should be good for people's mental health.
We have been discussing a lot more about mental health, especially after the pandemic. Mm-hmm. So what do you think is the private sector role in achieving the SDG about mental health?
So workplace mental health is part of the huge picture of creating mentally healthy world. So my view is if every workplace fosters a culture where human flourishing is possible, then we create mentally healthy people. That then means that in our families we will be better parents, better partners, better children. And we can also then impart the knowledge around what does stress look like, how do we have an early conversation so that we can prevent people getting unwell. So I think workplaces are a cornerstone of society, and therefore mental health in the workplace has to be a must in order for us to achieve this SDG.
What do we have to change in the workplace so that it doesn't make us sick?
Every organization has a responsibility towards its people, and every workplace needs to commit to a culture of human flourishing, enhancing people's ability to be the best that they can be. And so the way I look at this is that we work mainly with large corporates from the financial services sector all over the world. And there's 2 or 3 things that are absolute musts. So one of them is that it has to be led from the top. So if your CEO, your board, your chair thinks that this isn't business, then nothing will change. And there is no space for tokenism here, right? Because virtue signaling and well-being washing, there is no room for that. So you have to have leaders in these businesses who recognize that creating a mentally healthy environment is not only good for its people, it's also good profitable, because when people are happy, they are more productive, and when people are productive, the business is profitable. It's and I'm not just saying this has now been proven in research by Oxford University, research by other, US universities. It's obvious, but it is evidence-based. The second thing is there has to be a strategy within the organization. So you have to have KPIs or key performance indicators that is held accountable by the board or at executive level. And a strategy will include resourcing. So you can't just go, okay, we've got a strategy, but we haven't got a person to deliver it. We've got no team. We have got no budget behind it. That's tokenism again. So a strategy will often include 3 things. How to socialize mental health within a business. So you and I are talking about mental health with the understanding that it's not mental illness.
Yes.
Yeah, so we're not just talking about depression, anxiety, psychosis. We're talking about mental wellness, human flourishing. So if you have a great job in a healthy environment, that job is part of your well-being toolkit. So I love my job and I come to work, and when I come to work, it enhances my mental health. So that's the way to look at it. But quite a lot of jobs are designed with long working hours culture. People don't get to see their families. It's toxic environments where you have got no autonomy. All of those things can mean that people come to work, and yes, it pays them a salary to pay the mortgage, but the quality of life is significantly diminished. And that's what we're trying to avoid here. So you need a strategy where socializing mental health so that we all have a shared understanding that we're not just talking about mental illness, we're not just talking about prevention, we're talking about promotion and health creation. The second thing is every strategy has a skilling up. So I often say to people, if you were recruiting an engineer, you would look for skills and qualifications for engineering. But quite often we have people managers who have been technically promoted, but don't have the people skills to have a conversation. So therefore, we're setting people up to fail when it comes to, and that's
hurting
not fair.
People also.
Yeah, and that's not fair. So skilling people up, people managers need to have mental health training, good communication training, to understand what the business offers for mental health support so that they can actually look after their teams. I think is really, really important. And it's also the most evidence-based intervention for workplace mental health is when you skill up your people managers across the organization, you see a significant increase in mental health across the organization. And the third thing in a strategy is sustainability. So how do you know that all of these things that you have done is having any impact? And so therefore the board need to take responsibility and make sure that they are keeping a close eye on what's going on.
Human flourishing, what does that mean?
So that means that, I guess, what would I see? I would see a lot more smiling in the workplace, right? So I just think when people smile, that they light up rooms. And when they light up rooms, that has an infectious effect. But you can only really light up a room and smile from the heart if you feel it. And I guess that to me is human flourishing, is that when you feel like you're intellectually stimulated and you're growing, when you're emotionally content and feel like you feel loved and you feel like loving back. I think that takes an enormous amount of courage and trust. I think that and then also a desire and appetite to be challenged. So I think, human beings grow when we are challenged. So it's not a stress-free life. It's a stress with life, but actually it's about that stress and that drive moving the world towards a better place, the workplace towards a better place, our families towards a better place. So I think when all of those things are aligned, human flourishing happens because we're not conflicted in any way. Our work, our purpose, our families are all moving more or less in the same direction. And I think that's the only time people smile from the heart properly.
What is the role of the public sector?
So the way I think as an employer, public sectors in most of the world are big employers, and they're also a huge part of the economy and very influential, right? So if you as a public sector employer, I don't think it's okay for you as a public sector employer or a government sector employer say, everybody's got to do good mental health, but you're not doing it for your employees. So again, you have to lead by example. So I think that's the first thing that the public sector has to do, is demonstrate and lead by example. I think then the other thing about the public sector is its convening power. So it can bring together not-for-profit organization, community organizations, businesses in the same group and solve this problem together. So I think that's the other thing that the public sector can play a strong role in, is forming collaborations with multi-sector collaborations and then people going on a journey together, because every country needs to come at mental health in a culturally nuanced way. So at the moment, we have a westernized model of therapy. It doesn't work around the world. Some countries have got multi-generational households that live in, and the family dynamics needs to be taken into consideration for recovery. Some countries have got very strong spiritual lead, and prayer and spirituality needs to be taken into consideration for recovery. So therefore, I think the public sector have got to, and the community sector, not-for-profit sector, have got the power and the knowledge actually to bring together multi-sector organizations, multinationals, to go, this is our way of doing this. And we don't know what the full breadth of our way is, but we need to go on a journey together.
Wow.